Hey, welcome back to Mood Scale Adventure. Hey, there's a project I've been wanting to do, and I'm finally getting after it. So here in this video, we're gonna... I got a little something on the camera there. So yeah, this is the DIY project. So this is what I've been wanting to work on right here. DIY ladder. Man, I've been excited about this. I've been wanting to do it for a while now. Finally took the time and just busted it out, you know. And this was a great project, a really fun project. Super excited about how it turned out. But I'll say, if you've ever thought about doing a DIY, you want to get into a little welding and stuff, this is a great first project, all right? But now let's get into the build of it. Show you how I did it. All right, so this is everything we should need in order to make our ladder. Yeah, it doesn't look like much. That's because it's not much. But what we've got here is, let's start with the bolts. So these are 5/16 bolts. We've got two that are a little bit longer, two that are a little bit shorter, and that's because, well, these two, the length doesn't really matter. I'm going to end up cutting those off for the top bracket. Then got some 16 gauge plate steel, and just bought this at Menards, and actually all this stuff I picked up at Menards, minus that piece of angle there. So this is 16 gauge steel, plate steel, and really I think this will be plenty thick for what we're doing. I wouldn't want to go any thinner, but that ought to be perfect, really. So this is a 12-inch by 18-inch piece of plate steel. And you can see I've already got measured out my first cut here, the 4.5 inches by 9 inches, and that's going to be the bottom bracket for this ladder. So then we got a piece of 1.5 inch angle here. This was just a piece we had lying around the shop, so it's just some scrap steel. I'll have to clean up the rust and stuff, but that's 1.5 inch angle. I'll be cutting that down to 9 inches as well, and that'll be part of the top bracket. Then with our conduit, which is what we're going to use to make the ladder, I've got one piece of 3/4 inch 10-foot section of conduit. That'll be the sides of the ladder. Then for the rungs, going with 1/2 inch conduit. So we'll cut that down into sections, and that's a 5-foot length of conduit. Well, let's get to cutting. So there's the two brackets, top and bottom. So what I'm going to do is, it's a little rough on the edges. So I'm going to take the belt sander here and just try to kind of smooth them down. Make it a little bit nicer, a little bit cleaner. And I might angle the edges, round the edges off a little bit so you don't have those sharp corners as well. But so far so good. All right, now that that's all cleaned up, for the top bracket, went ahead and made a line at 1 inch. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to bend that over at that 1 inch mark to make the hook that's going to hook that top bracket in. So I just need to basically fold this over. So that's the next step. Well, not the the easiest way, I guess. There might be another easier way. But I'm going to try to do it this way. So I'm going to take the think we got a pretty good bend on that. Yeah, well, let's go see how well it fits. Oh, yeah. It's actually even better than I thought it would after I was sitting there banging on it. We get that mounting tape underneath there especially. Yeah. That's a pretty good fit. So I just want to show you this real quick. So whenever I went to mount the bracket, this top bracket, I decided I didn't really like the bend the way it is. So this is the original bracket. As you can see, it's got a pretty big bend to it there. Like it loops all the way back. And it's just, with the way the Cherokee is up top where you mount this, it was just real tight trying to shove it on. And I just didn't feel like that was necessary. I had some extra steel left over, so I went ahead and made a second bracket. And what I did with that is you go ahead and I made this bracket bigger first off. I went with 7 inches as opposed to 4.5 with the original one. And then bent it on the 1-inch line, same way. But didn't bend it over all the way. So you can kind of see the difference on that. This just has a slight lip. Went ahead and cut off a 1/4 inch of that then too. So that's why when comparing these, you can see that this lip is a lot longer than this one. Want to let you know, I did change my bracket some. All right, so the next thing we need to do with this top bracket is locate the holes, locate where these bolt holes are going to go. So these 2 bolts I'm going to cut down to about 3/4 of an inch and then weld them onto this bracket. So I'm wanting to place them about 6 inches apart. So that'd be about 1.5 inches from each side, and then about 3/4 of an inch in, right? And that'll get us, far enough in. I think we'll be good here, but not so far back. We're kind of dealing with that bend there. So, yeah. So just need to locate those holes, cut these bolts down to size, and then we'll weld those on. All right. All right, I am really happy with this so far. So I went ahead and welded on the 2 nuts, or not nuts, the 2 bolts, and went ahead and welded both sides just to make sure it's good and solid. And I'll tell you what, I'm extremely excited about this. I'm not like I'm nowhere near a professional welder. I'm not a professional fabricator. I'm not, I've done some DIY projects. This is probably the most extensive one I've tried to do, but it just, looking at it, I feel like it shouldn't be that hard overall. I don't know. I'm excited. This is gonna be awesome. So I got a little ahead of myself. So I got pretty excited about this bracket. And before I should have welded these on, the bolts on, I should have cut this to length. I got ahead of myself and I didn't clamp this together and drill the holes together. So now I gotta go back and drill holes into this angle and try to line them up with my studs here. So that's what I'm working on now. I'll cut this down to the 9 inches, then mark some holes and drill this out so that this can clamp on top of the bracket. All right. All right, there's that. One thing I didn't mention is, in the, let's see, well, showing the materials I was going to use, I had this old piece of angle that I was going to use. Well, this is thicker than what I really felt like I needed. So I went ahead and went by Menards, and I got a 4-foot piece of angle, and this is the 1/8 inch by 1.5. So that's why, if you notice, it's not so rusty. I went ahead and grabbed that. Just wanted to get something a little bit thinner. Weight's important to me, and really, this is just thick enough for what we need to do. All right. So I went ahead and drilled these out a little bit wider just so, well, from where I welded these on, it's a little bit, you know, a little bit wider than what the holes would be to fit that. So went ahead and drilled that out a little wider, and pretty pleased with that. I think that looks pretty good. All right, now for kind of the part I've been holding off on. I don't want to say holding off on, but we're going to make that bottom bracket. So the way we're going to do it is we're going to create our bracket to screw in right here. There's two existing bolts. They go right here. There's a bolt there and a bolt there. Okay, so we're going to access that, pull these out, and that's where we're going to end up placing our bracket. So I'm going to have to cut out a notch for where this light's at and get those holes lined up. Hi-yo. Alright, there you go. There's just 4 clips on that, you can see. So just take your time. Try not to dig into your trim there, and you'll get it. They pop out fairly easy. Alright. Not the easiest to get to, but it does appear to be a 10mm. So, I'm going to try a ratchet. Yeah, not too bad overall. Only took about 2 or 3 back and forths of the ratchet, and she's all loose. Woo! Get your hand out though. One nut. Alright, second one. Gotta take my watch off to get into that one. So that part is not the funnest, I'll have to say. Like this little bad boy, and I think you'll be able to see. Let's see, let's get that there. Alright, so this sucker is wedged in there, and it's one of those where it gets tighter, you know, as you go deeper. Not the funnest part of the job. Basically what you got to do is, I took 2 small screwdrivers, alright, and I kind of pry, you know, prying back and forth while trying to wiggle here and there on the inside. Eventually you get loosened up and it'll just work its way out. But yeah, this little guy is a pain in the butt. I still got one more to do. Hi-yo. It's kind of one of those funny things where you would think you don't have as much room there, but just get the end of the wrench on there, just pry back and forth. You eventually just kind of wobble it out. Alright, so what I did here is I went ahead and measured from the inside of here to the center hole there, which is about 1.5 inches, which is pretty much right on 1.5 inches. Then measured from this crease here over, which is 1/2 inch. Then measured from center to center, you get 7 1/8, and then from the edge again up was 1.25 inches. So got my markings. We're gonna drill those out and see if everything lines up. Then you know, then we got to figure out how we're gonna cut out the hole for the light. But one step at a time. All right, we got a couple holes drilled, and I believe that's gonna work. So I don't know. I may need longer bolts, but whoop. But yeah, I do believe we've got a winner. All right, so got where the rear hatch light goes. Got that cut out, and I ended up going with more of a slider on this nut here. That way I can kind of adjust it a little bit. Then, as you can see, I went ahead and clamped down my my bracket that the actual ladder is going to be welded to. Clamp that together with the bracket that's going to be attached to the rear hatch, and drill some holes here. So now this should be ready to go. All I need to do is bolt it back up in there. No, bolt it like that. Yeah, bolt it back up in there and reassemble everything. All right, so I've got my bracket set in, and there's one here, and well, let me show you. All right, so I've got the bottom bracket down here, all ready to go. Then I've positioned the top bracket up there so that so we can figure out kind of the bends on the ladder here. So what I'm doing here is I just straightened out a coat hanger, a wire hanger, as straight as I can get it. Then I'm going to use that to create my bends on the way up. All right, so I went ahead and transferred that over to the piece of plywood, and I mean, not not my greatest template ever, but I think it'll work. So let me get it up here. There it is. But yeah, that is looking good. That is looking good. Now we just need to use this template to transfer all the bends over to the conduit. We can start forming up our ladder. All right, so we're over here with the pipe bender now, and I'm really fortunate to have access to a pipe bender. And if you don't have that opportunity, if you don't have a pipe bender available, one thing you can do is you can make your marks and make little V's in your pipe, then kind of fold it together and then weld it. So I'm using the pipe bender. I feel like that's the easier way to go about it. But you can do it that way if you have the welder. If you don't have a pipe bender, you can still basically do the exact same thing with that. So just going to use my template. Kind of line these up where the bends need to be and just work our way down it. There we go. Nice bend. All right. I'm just going to finish up these bends, see what we end up with. All right, so the big part here is that all your bends are, they're even. They're the same. You want both of these to line up perfectly to each other. So it looks like, yeah, looks like we got that part right. This is the moment of truth. So yeah, I think this is perfect. I think this really is going to work out good. Distance away from the vehicle. Plenty of space. Oh man. You know, you start these projects, you never know what you're going to get. Getting pretty excited. Oh, now we just got to cut our rungs, start tacking it all together. We'll weld this up a ladder and we'll have everything, man, we'll have everything set up here pretty quick. Okay, the next thing we got to figure out is like this, you know, my plates, 9 inches, right? 9 inches wide. So I need to figure out where or how wide my rungs need to be. So I'm using some of this 3/4 inch conduit that I already cut off, and I'm just going to line them up where it's going to be welded onto. And I'm going to get my measurements off of that for how wide the rungs of the ladder need to be. So I'm going with 7.5 inches, and I'm giving myself a little wiggle room. That way I can notch my rungs to really fit tight around the sides of the ladder. I think that sounds like a good idea. All right, look at that. Now, I still need to tweak it probably a little bit, but that is looking awesome. I need to get this up on the Cherokee, you know, get everything really lined up, and then start tacking it. All right, so I've got both of these tacked. You know, really what I'd recommend if you're going to weld up here like this, whenever I put the rungs on, I'm going to do it, but probably ought to put a little cover, something underneath this to keep from, you know, sparking your car, getting little chunks of metal stuck to your car. Doesn't look like that happened, but take all precautions. There it is. All welded up. We've got our ladder. And we just need to finish the welding job and get it painted and clean up my welds. I'm not a very good welder, so my welds are a little not the best. So we'll clean those up, finish welding, paint this sucker. What do you think?
Good.
Yeah.
Very good.
I got my little helpers here with me today. My ladder man.
Hello.
Hello. All right, she's all welded up. I am not impressed with my welding as far as like looks of the welds, but I'll get them cleaned up. They'll be good. Let's see how solid it is. Woo. May not be the best looking welds, but they'll hold. I like it. Hey, it's early morning, so went ahead and came in early today. It's about 10 degrees and it is cold out in this shop. But I got my spray paint so that we can finish up this ladder. So I'm gonna get this heater cranked up, warm up this shop, then we're gonna get to the last phase of this DIY project. We're gonna get some paint on this ladder. Now this is the hardest part for me, honestly, because this part you gotta have patience. And I'm not really good with the patience, but for a good paint job, for a lasting paint job, really, you need to let it set for a while. You know, you really need it warmer temperatures while you're painting, and then you need it to really set up so you'll have a lasting paint job. All right. That thing needs to crank some heat. So we're really in the home stretch here. All we got to do is the painting. All the welding's done. The weld's been ground down, so they look halfway decent. You know, I'm not a pro. So one thing I want to make sure I reiterate is the fact that you really want to take something like some 100 grit sandpaper or something like that and really try to get all that galvanized off. So I'm going to start off with some primer, some Rustoleum self-etching primer. We're going to go ahead and give it 3 or 4 light coats, and then we'll move on to the I got some farm and implement low gloss black. So that's the color we're looking for. It should be close to like a matte black. They were actually out of matte black, so this looked close. Alright, so that's going to be our last coat of primer. Really happy with how it turned out. Woo! There's a little strong in here. But hey, with this primer, all you got to do is, 3, 4 light coats. I did 4. Give it about 2-3 minutes in between coats to dry. Then you're ready for the next one. After that final coat, give it 2, 3, 4 hours, however, to really let it set, really let it dry before you add your black, matte black, whatever you decide to go with. Then with this, once we start applying this paint, you give it about an hour in between coats. And then I'll probably let it set for a couple days before I add the bed liner. Alright? Woo! Oh. Alright, so I kind of changed my mind a little bit here. So first off, the primer, all good and dried. I went ahead, used a little 220 sandpaper, scuffed it up. So I gave that a few hours to set, scuffed it up, and now we're ready to add our black. But originally, I kind of talked about throwing on this farming equipment and then basically then layering over it with the bed liner onto the ladder portion itself. Part of that was I really wanted this to be as smooth as possible, but I test sprayed this, and I don't know where I put that. But yeah, so I test sprayed this on a cut piece of conduit, and I'll tell you what, it's not as rough as I was expecting it to be, which it is still. It's got some grit to it, which is good. I want that, but I don't think it's going to affect anything when it comes to mounting. So I think it's a little overkill to paint that over your primer and then throw on the bed liner. So I'm just going to do the bed liner, and it's just going to be trying to really light sprays and do about 2 or 3 coats, wait about an hour in between coats, and then we should be good. Alright, we've let it sit for a couple days. Paint is all good. That bed liner has a great feel to it. I love the look, love the texture to it. So this is ready to be installed. So we're going to go ahead and take it down, and we're going to go install this. Alright, last step before we get this thing mounted. I'm going to take some of this Gorilla heavy duty mounting tape, and really I just want to put it anywhere that this bracket is going to be touching paint. Try to protect that, as well as just help it help it hold in there a little bit more solid. So I'm going to put some back here and across there. And then the sucker will be ready to go up on top. Man, I am just super excited about how this turned out, you know. It was a fun project. I had a blast doing it. You know, it's fun to build your own thing, right? I could have bought this ladder from Gobi for like 350 bucks, whereas I spent about 70 bucks in all the materials to do this. So quite a bit cheaper, plus just the pride of the fact that you made your own, right? That's always part of the fun of DIY, is that you know you made it. And that's always cool. But yeah, don't be afraid to go out and do this. It's not that expensive. It's not that hard. And man, I think it just turned out awesome. So I'm super excited. So I know I don't post videos super frequently, but if you were interested in stuff like this, go check out my Instagram page at Mood Scale Adventure. That's where I was showing updates as I was building this. You know, just kind of, you can see what's going on in the Mood Scale world. Also, there's a Mood Scale Adventure Facebook group page. That Facebook group page was really created because we've got a Cherokee KL trail run coming up down in Arkansas in April. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, join that group page. Plus, I want that group page to be something where I'm not the only one posting. I'd like to see your guys' posts, whether you're doing projects like this or whatever. But you can always keep up with us there. Join the group, post your pictures, ask your questions. It's a good time. And also, hey, if you like the video, hit that thumbs up button and think about subscribing. It helps us out here at Mood Scale Adventure, and we would love to have your support. All right, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.